Yo, what the fuck is up? We just made a video talking about havens on Twitch and online communities, independent communities, creating safe spaces uh, for appreciation and shared enjoyment of a moment in time. And I thought maybe we just expand on that a little bit. Um, I guess I don't really have anything else to say right now. Uh, I just wanted to show off my abs. It's looking kind of good. I'm like, yo, I'm amazed. It was like 2 days of working out, and I feel like there's a little bit of a difference. I'm like, oh my God. If I work out consistently for a couple months, I'll be in a good place. That'll be cool. Um, I thought I had something to think of, like, oh, okay. Yeah, no, in that magical space of appreciation and the releasing of stress comes new inspiration. And the idea of having more creative spaces for communities, whether you're sharing ideas for like art projects or games, or just like exploring ideas, like doing a little bit of homework and then talking about it with people, and they, be a part of it a little bit, where, you have people that you trust that become a part of your community that might add to it and add something like, if you are into that, then you might be into this. And using channels like Discord as well to create like group, like book clubs, like study sessions, like spaces of shared appreciation for your favorite art, games, movies, but to get it into like the creative field of like writing. Brandon Sanderson has an amazing writing course, but there's also like so many different things like documentaries and things to learn. And if you kind of just made like we're all learning different things each week or something, but then it was also like, if you had to take a week off or you weren't there, you wouldn't miss something. Like the idea of kind of like a school, but just like all the best aspects of a school or a course or a class, and it's free form, and people add to it and take away from it unique things, would be really cool. This is something that'd be fun to do. So I take like documentaries and read like books, listen to TED Talks. When you can get really good at summarizing the information that you learn, yeah, then you learn it even better. And when you can break it down into what you've learned, then you get those building blocks of knowledge and information, especially as you summarize them and streamline them. And then you can stack them up in unique ways and put them together in unique ways. Instead of it being like this ungrounded, just like a whole bunch of lines of random information, you block it into a concise form. And you can always open that block back up, because you don't have to have like all of the thing memorized in there, but kind of what you took away from it and some of the things. And then anytime that you need to, if you remember what that summary was for you, sorry, I don't mean to go wagging my finger at you, but if you have a really good summary of the information that you learned from a TED Talk or something, and you remember what you got from it and maybe the way it made you feel, then if something else comes up that is relative to that, and you're like, ooh, okay, spark of inspiration, you can rewatch it, because you'll have memorized it enough to know that it might be relative or useful to that other thing. So you can always break it open again at the perfect time in the future. And when you start categorizing and organizing all the information in your head, heart, and mind like this, and you're especially attuned to something that aligns with your mission, your purpose, your soul mission, if it is building communities to battle depression, right? And helping people find their inspiration. So fighting anxiety and depression through play, through fun, through appreciation, through like encouragement, just genuine, safe encouragement and shared stories, to lift people up, to break through that, to wake them up, so that, we together, through allowing sadness and moving through it, can lift each other up, by creating a space where it's safe to be sad and to move through it, but then also sharing what were moments that kind of got you back into your flow, or even helped you to go from being numb to being really sad, so you could move through it, so you could unthaw that, You know, if there was really hard emotions that become like a block of ice inside you and it's just numb like ice. But you could, you know, when you melt it through the emotion, then there's a flood of emotion that moves through you. And even if you got to like cry a lot, then afterwards, when the sun rises, after the flood, you know, you're finally clean, just like the Taylor Swift song Clean. I listened to it, but the speaker on my phone to tablet is so bad. When I'm recording stuff on my phone and listening to music on my tablet, it's not as bad, but it's so bad. I was like enjoying listening to music while I was talking just the other day and went back to listen to the video, and it's not like it was terrible, but it sure wasn't great for sure. So if you're thinking and talking about creating communities and spaces like this in your work, and even if you were just like, you know, say you're streaming games and doing a little bit of blogging and writing online, and you just start to compile useful things, you hold a little bit of a space for this page, even if it was just one category on Discord, if there was stuff for kind of like sharing stories, but really good guidelines in moderation, right? So people share stories without like trauma dumping, right? No trauma dumping, but just, and to keep it relatively short and compact with enough space for if you have something to say, you know, it's like a little bit loose guidelines where there is love and appreciation for each of the people in the community and new people coming into the community, but there's also an appreciation and respect for the space of the community. That is to say, it's there for a specific theme, for a specific purpose, and making sure that aligns with the stuff people are posting there. Like in terms of the size and like the like not too heavy or something, so that it becomes something that's healthy for everyone that does it, especially the host of the community. And you just start sharing stuff on X, like a few things that you find, and then you just hold a little bit of intention while you're streaming games. That is something you'd like to do. Then when you're watching TED Talks and documentaries and stuff, you've already got a couple channels and outlets where it becomes very, very fast and streamlined. Where if like you can summarize what you've learned into something, you can link them up to the documentary in case people are interested to it, and encourage other people to do the same within the guidelines of the space that you create and your intention for it, so that you can hold that intention with the sovereignty of your space. That means you dictate the direction and momentum, you write the destiny of the space. And if people are posting content that was good, but it wasn't quite for your space, you could let them know so that they could move to a different place that was more aligned to them, so that you could keep that purpose and that sovereignty that you sought out when you created it. And that's just about like summarizing information for things that you've learned in alignment with your mission. Yeah, like even if something was a perfect, genius, amazing TED Talk on how you innovate with things with like technology and natural law or something, if you were doing the depression and anxiety motivation thing, it's like, yes, it's crazy good information and you could pass it on to people that are interested in that, but if it isn't your element and exactly what you want to create, then it might still be a rewarding experience watching it, but it wouldn't be as pivotal or valuable to you. So when you hold a space for your dreams like that, okay, when you hold a space for your dreams, yeah, then when you find something that aligns to your dreams, it'll kind of light up for you a little bit, you know, because you're like, ooh, yeah, they're kind of talking about the same thing, but in a different way, you know, like the TED Talk by the lady that does Eat, Pray, Love. Yeah, she made a TED Talk called Your Elusive Creative Genius or something along those lines. If you type that in, it'll come up. And she talks about like the feeling of having written such a well-received best-selling book, and there is such a pressure afterwards. Like, how is she gonna follow up that? Like, did she just peak? Is her entire life going to be living in the shadow of this thing that was more than 10 times as successful as her other books that she made before that? How's she gonna do the next one? Can she just go back to how she was before? Is it going to be the only thing anyone ever talks about? And she said she's like drinking during the day, like just wake up and start drinking wine and just like, I'm a writer. And it was the idea of Finding your creative genius is something that flows through you, and sometimes you catch a crazy genius or a genie. The word genius comes from the Roman word genie, which meant a spirit that you embodied, that you channeled, that moved through you. So when sometimes you had a remarkable, groundbreaking discovery that was just fire, you wouldn't have to feel like you had to live in the expectation of that, in the shadow of that. You were just in the right place at the right time to make a magnificent thing happen. You know, you were able to channel a genie through you that happened to be in the right place at the right time, like a guardian force from Final Fantasy VIII. Slash and gunblade, you know. And that took a lot of the pressure off. And when she was able to take the pressure off of that, she was able to get back into her creative energy and flow without having to feel like it had to be good, and having the space that it could not be good. And that was fine. She started being able to make stuff that was good and that was really, really good. And even if it wasn't as massively popular and successful as the other stuff, that was fine, because it might be even better to a smaller, specific audience that was lined up with exactly what she wanted to create. So the stories that she wanted to tell, the words that she wanted to write that were healing and inspiring to her soul, right? So she wasn't trying to appease this mass audience, you know? But she was appeasing her soul and the people that resonated with that soul. So, you know, it might lead to eventually, after a couple other books, she hits her next breakthrough. But she wouldn't have found her way to that breakthrough if it wasn't through the transition of those books, without trying to seek out epic popularity and success. You're able to hone in maybe more on something that's pivotal and meaningful and transformative to you. Because if you're going in for the transformation instead of popularity or success, you can hit those popularity and success, but the transformation is going to be the most valuable thing you'll get from your creative work in a lot of instances, you know? Like, security is good, but again, even with that instance of mass security, like, all of a sudden she's set for life. She doesn't have to do anything for the next 20 years, you know? And be able to live in quite a ritzy type of at least $100,000 a year, you know, for at least 20 years kind of a deal. But you want something that motivates you and makes your life meaningful. It sounded like, despite that security, her life reached a kind of depressive point, you know? That, you know, from the talk sounded like it was almost critical for her. And she's like looking at life and was having a hard time engaging with the magic of it. And through finding this piece of information, and different artists that have used that in their work, and I try to use that in my work, and finding that TED Talk was something where I was like, oh, hell yeah. You know, it took away a lot of the fears and the pressures. And it's just one example of someone sharing something that was very meaningful and powerful, transformative for them, that was powerful and transformative for me, that became a good summarized block of information that I can share with other people that might be going through the same thing, right? And that's one tiny example of that. And I feel like it's a really good anecdote to the sea of information in our modern digital era. Like, there is more stuff posted on the internet in one day than you could read in like a lifetime, and it's all random and it's all out there. There's so many books and documentaries and films and games and podcasts. Like, there's more podcasts than you could listen to like 100 times over. More than that. Like, every day there's all of these podcasts. Like, the amount of hours of podcasts that are produced every day is probably in the thousands and thousands, you know? But to find the ones that are uniquely valuable to you, and to create communities and spaces where you can share those things, that other people might effectively find something that was uniquely valuable and motivating for them, you know? Because that human touch and that human connection is such a big thing. A lot of the best references, like, people, oh, this thing, it was a personal story of connection that got me to check it out. So I'm being like, this thing was so huge for me in these ways. It was a really good recommendation because it came from the heart and it was specific to them. And that's a good way to know if it might be specific for you too. It's huge. All right. Let me see. Sanji's kind of just sleeping. I'll keep an eye on him. I was gonna bring him over because he's so damn cute. Talking about community building like that is good. Oh, yeah, we were talking about Twitch before. Something that I thought of early in the days of fanning out and becoming a part of these different Twitch communities was something that you could do to help them organize better. Like as soon as you're part of one community and then you're like, oh, they introduce you to another community and another, and you're like, this is so cool. All of these communities are so cool. And different. Some things are shared. They shine unique value. They look good next to each other because of their differences and their similarities. Really, really cool. But they're all going at different times. And if you're a fan of like three different things and they're all on at the same time, and you're like, oh, what? And like, how do you start to grow as a smaller community? It's all kind of locked into like like rating people at the right times. But if you're like, oh, I have time for this stream, and if you watched an entire stream and then they're going to do the raid, then it's like unless you plan for it beforehand, it's like 4/5 of the people jump, very quickly. Some people stay for just like 15 minutes to 30 minutes, and then it kind of goes back to the same with one or two people staying in and becoming a part and like crossing over. But if you had something like a guild, like if you like this person's content, check out these other people's content. So that's something kind of you can do in the recommended channels feeds. But if you had a guild that was like a larger page on a social media platform like X or other places that was able to summarize and commentate a little bit of like this person's there, they're doing these things, and if you had like a new channel, you could represent yourself and what you want to achieve and bring to the table, and it would be very reviewed by moderators to be able to respectfully decline if they're like, yes, we appreciate your wanting to be a part of this, but your energy does not quite line up with this. And there'd be different sections and categories for how for different people and how they're, different energy and lifestyles, and people that are quite popular, people that are just starting out, people that recommend each other. And you could work on shared scheduling of different games where you could like reach out to your friends and be like, we'll play these games at a similar time with gaps so that if someone wants to follow like multiple of them, they lead into each other quite well. And Twitch has the channels to do that, but I haven't seen any guild structures on Twitch where there's like a big, nice, vibrant homepage guild with a good mission statement that just creates a stability and a guild framework, like the way that a guild creates strength among different like people of any skill set, like an artisans guild or something, where anyone that wants artisans comes to the guild and you'll like take the request to the different individuals within it. It creates stability and camaraderie amongst an entire community of people so that they can all do what they're doing to the best of their abilities, and it supports them. Yeah. Or like if you had to take some time off so your people could kind of go into other people's streams and you'd be like open and transparent and there'd be good communication, you know so that you could take as much time off as possible. And if you did have one where it's like I don't know, like you have two communities, but both of them are only on Twitch for half of the time, but they had put their schedules together where both of the community's people was on each person's stream, so there'd be like double the amount of viewership, so they'd both get paid like the same. Yeah, because if they're both just going at the same time, and they both got 300, but then if it's like 600 half of the week on one, 600 half of the week on the other, it's like the same amount of viewership. Like that's crazy, right? It's just like a good way of networking. Yeah, okay, I'm gonna make sure that makes sense, but it does, right? It does. And that's one kind of base example, and that could implement itself in many smaller ways where people work for a couple days but then support each other, they shout each other out, they talk a little bit about what they're doing so that creators get a little bit of free time to actually invest in other people's streams. I met everyone I've met on Twitch is like, I do Twitch so much that I can't really watch anyone else's Twitch stream other than my own. And as a viewer, after long, you're like, I kind of relate to that. You can only really follow like 2 to 3 communities, and then like 3 or 4 like tertiary communities, or there's like primary, secondary, and tertiary that you go in just every once in a while and say hey and pull up for a little bit. Secondary people, you're there like once or twice a week pretty frequently, and you stay for like hours of a stream. Primary people, you try to hit like at least 50% or something of like the time on their thing. If you're like a core person, that is so much time right away. And you're thinking, if it was kind of like structured so that you weren't missing these big pieces of the story of the stream on the Twitch, because there was break time and everyone knew about it, then I feel like you could navigate communities really, really well. It'd be a blessing for people that were just starting out, but their content was really, really good, and other creators saw that and was able to give them a very heartfelt, genuine shout out and use their prowess and their experience to help these up and coming people to get set up and do what they love, so that it's like a labor of passion. And being able to do that as a Twitch streamer, to see a young Twitch streamer who's coming up and be able to help them, that'd be satisfying, right? To see a little bit of your younger self in them and to be able to avoid the pitfalls and give them the things that you learned, streamlined time. Where it's like, it took me months to learn this, and I wish I would have learned it sooner. And I'll give you the piece of advice or information that made the biggest impact or difference to me. And everyone's different, but through people sharing genuinely and specifically the things that were meaningful to them, you also find similarities. We're different, but also in a lot of ways we're more similar than we are different. Yeah, more similar than different, for sure. For sure. Turn up. So we'll leave it there. We'll leave it there for now, and we'll just come back to it like naturally with good timing and alignment. I'll try and put together a map and an idea, a blueprint of these things, because for any Twitch streamer, if they were like, I could double my audience by doing half of the time streaming, because some people are like, the consistency is nice because people want to be able to plug into that all the time. But if there was 2 streams doing similar content, right, there's complementary, and they were able to work together to make their content complementary so that their fans liked the other one as well, to get greater depth and diversity. Like, that would be crazy cool, right? Because a lot of people are like, wow, yeah, you need the consistency to build a platform and the thing, but then you're locked into it, and it's like this obligation. And if you wanted to expand what you were doing on your platform by taking some time off or doing things that were more experimental, you could do that in a completely safe way without the stress of like, oh no, you've already hit the jackpot to get a community on Twitch. You don't want to unjackpot yourself. We'll talk more about it soon, because I think there are some really miraculous things about Twitch. The creation of communities, the sharing of content and perspectives, and being able to set an example and a ripple effect through that community on Twitch, whether it's just shared positive energy or appreciation of great things, or an influence of someone who is successful in ways that you would like to be, and put together, and that influence becoming like a light in your life, where you watch someone on Twitch and you're like, yo, and you can take the challenges of your life in a way because they've been an example of doing that, or finding their passion, pursuing what they love in some way, and that is so damn cool. All right, so we'll just yeah, what up? We'll get up, we'll get back to it, we'll we'll talk again soon. I want to try and expand into an idea box about Twitch and bring it to people that have the expertise, the knowledge, the passion, the inspiration for doing things on Twitch that I do not, with complementary ideas. And we could maybe present for it together to give an example of the guild framework in action, right from the jump, which would be super cool, super cool. All right, I love you all. I'm sending you my love and light.